G'day folks, Tracy, Sheen, the Digital Guide here. How you doing? Hope you're having a fabulous day. We are here today again talking about, what are we talking about? SEO. Gosh, I should have known that. It's like the most important topic that anybody's ever going to speak to you about. Hey, before we get into that, a little bit about me and why I'm sitting on this side of the desk instead of you. I'm a 30-year veteran in marketing and sales. I'll say that a little slowly because, you know, I'm probably got genes older than some of you. So 30 years, started in 1990 and worked my way through various major Australian retailers. I was a trainer inside of Telstra and Optus, so used to fly around the country training the retail guys on how to put devices and how to market to the public. And then around about 11 years ago, I went out on my own and started my own coffee business. Yeah, I love coffee, still got it. We roast about 6 tonne a week and we sell coffee all over the eastern seaboard and sell machines. And then kind of got bored with that, so started podcasting because I'd had a time as a radio and TV person. So yep, in case you didn't guess it, I was the millennial changing jobs before that was popular. So while we still have a coffee business these days, I spend most of my time doing this kind of stuff. So I train small business owners to embrace technology, basically really to help them market and sell in their business. So anything from SEO that we're going to talk about today, to understanding Google Analytics, to creating content, to creating podcasts, you name it, I kind of work across the whole genre. So lucky you, you are tuning into SEO. You're going to have this nailed in about 30 minutes. It's going to be fun. Hope you got a coffee. You know, it can get a little, anyway, you'll find out. So, to me, you are who Google says you are. So if Google don't know who you are, then sadly, you're probably not going to have a business in another couple of years unless we do something about that. So Google is pretty much the be all and end all now in terms of search engines. You know, there are a few others out there. I think Jeeves might still be operating. I hear people talk about Bing every once in a while, but really, Google is where it's at. And what you need to know around how you're going to rank yourself and get known by Google is what's often referred to as SEO, or search engine optimization. So there's about, you know, like imagine the longest movie you've ever watched. I don't know, Dances with Wolves, Game of Thrones, I don't know, something like that. It's like that, but on steroids when it comes to SEO. There is so much stuff that you're never going to know it. So what I'm going to show you today and what I'm going to walk you through is kind of the basics to help you get an understanding, and more importantly, probably, so at some point you can know who to work with, so you'll know that they're doing the right thing by your business. Don't always think that the best solution is for you to internalize it and do this stuff yourself, because here's the thing. I know when a violin is played well, but you give me a violin and I'm going to sound like a screeching cat. So sometimes you need to hand stuff off in your business to get it done well. But there are some really cool little hacks and some tips and some tricks when it comes to SEO that I'm going to walk you through in the next wee while. So the first thing that we want to think about is, what is SEO? So at its core, SEO kind of dictates two things: rankings and visibility. So if you think about rankings as, and I'm just going to read this here because I thought it was pretty cool, it's the process that search engines use to determine where to place a web page in a search engine result page. So let's kind of work through what that means. So when you Google something, let's say car yard near me. If you're in the Moreton Bay area, you might say car yard near me, or you might say car yard Redcliffe, for example. So then what happens is you type that into Google, or I could be cheeky and say, you know, you've set it to Google, but I could set something off here that would make the people go a little bit mad at me. So I'll save that for later when I know they're falling asleep. So you type something into the thing and then Google kind of goes away and it looks through like really, really quickly all of the websites and it brings you back the most relevant information to match your search. That's a ranking. How quickly do you appear on that page? Are you even on page 1? Or would you believe it? There's more than one page to Google. So like if you look at the bottom, it's got like one of, you know, couple of million depending on what you're searching for. So some people never make it into page 1. What we're going to talk about today is a little bit to help you kind of try to get yourself onto page 1 of Google. So the first one's rankings. When you search for something, how does your site appear compared to other people? The other one is visibility. So that is how prominent is your site in a search? So they kind of go hand in hand, right? What's your ranking and what's your visibility? How well does Google know you, basically? And trust me, Google knows you pretty darn well. So let's talk about how Google knows how to rank a page. How does this even happen? What's this magic that goes on in the background? So at its core, what Google's trying to do is give you the best answer to match your question. So if I was to type in, and a lot of people do now, just think of Google as like their virtual assistant, they'll say, you know, what's the weather today? Now Google automatically knows that I'm in Kippering and it's going to give me the weather for this location. But if I'm typing in a broader search, then it needs to pull relevant data that might be global compared to just very, very localized. So it needs to be able to pull all of that data and pull it together to give you the best possible match that it can to the question that you've asked. So that's what it's trying to do at its core. So when it comes to it, it's looking for relevance and authority. So I want you to think about this in terms of when you're creating content, when you're putting stuff onto your website, you want to try and create content that's as relevant to the questions that you know your clients are asking you as you can possibly get. So I'll give you an example. If you're in tourism, for example, and you know that one of the biggest questions you get is, what's the weather like in Brisbane in July? Then you could create an article, for example, that would say the typical weather in Brisbane in July. So if I type in what's the weather like in Brisbane in July, and you've got an article that says, here's what's the weather like in July in Brisbane, then Google's going to go, hey, question, woo, that's like a really good match. Yay, relevant is basically what we're looking for. How relevant is your content compared to what people are asking? So the way that Google does that is through a topic or a keyword. Now you've probably heard of keywords or key phrases when you've come across SEO stuff before, and that is keywords are things like Brisbane, weather, video, content, digital marketing, fish and chips, you know, whatever your industry is, you will have keywords and topics that Google are looking for to match answers to questions. The next one is authority. Now, the way that Google measures your authority of your website is pretty convoluted, and there's a whole bunch of like monkeys typing on typewriters in the background that develop their algorithms. I'm not joking, I actually think that's real, but I don't know that CSIRO will ever allow us in to see how they've trained the monkeys, so we just have to keep suspecting that that's how it actually works. So the way that they determine the authority is to see how many people are visiting your website, how long they're hanging around on the website, how many pages they're visiting, all that kind of stuff. Now, if you want a bit more insight into that, that was a Google Analytics, and I'm going to link back to that. I did another one on Google Analytics 101. Kind of goes hand in hand with the SEO stuff. So if you're going to watch this, I probably suggest Bex and a good lay down and then get back up and watch Google Analytics, because it all kind of fits in together. So authority is measured on, you know, how many people are visiting your website, how long they're hanging around, all that kind of stuff. So there's really three main components to thinking about creating or getting a bit of an SEO strategy together for yourself and really starting to get a bit of a handle on what this whole thing means. So if you're going to optimize your site, and ultimately when we're talking about search engine optimization, SEO, what we're talking about is optimizing our site. How can we make our site the best it can be for our clients? That's what we're talking about. So if we're going to optimize our site, there's three main areas we need to be considering when we're starting to work on this stuff. Now, the first one is the technical setup, and we're going to talk a little bit about these in a second. The second one is your content, and the third one is links. So let's take a look at the technical setup now. So technical setup is really what we're talking about when we talk about on-site optimization. Now, for your website to rank, for Google to see it, there's a few things that needs to happen. First of all, Google needs to see it, right? So you can't just have a site that is all audio, for example. Right now, Google is deaf. So you know when our Premier does her updates about things and she's got the wonderful sign interpreter? Interpreter? They don't just make a word up. Maybe. Interpreter. I don't know. Tomato, tomato. When Anastasia Palaszczuk has her sign interpreter, that's kind of what Google needs right now, and they're working on it. It's happening in the States, so there will reach a point where we will be able to have a lot of audio on our site and Google will be able to reference it. But right now, all Google can see and read is words. So we need to make sure that our site is set up for Google to be able to see us. That's the first thing. It needs to be able to scan our site for topics and keywords. And I'm going to go through a little bit about how you can easily amend some of the content on your site to help you get found for keywords and topics. But keep that in mind. Start to think about, all right, what are my topics, what are my keywords, what are people asking me about that I need to be thinking about? And the third one is Google needs to be able to add them, your topics, your keywords, your pages, to their database of content. So if you think about Google is basically just the largest library that you are ever going to find, right? So every single site out there, Google has to kind of go through and read and go, oh, okay, that one's about, creating media content. Oh, okay, that one's about a fish and chip shop. That one's about, whatever it's about. Google needs to be able to read all of these stuff and put them into categories and know where to and how to access them as quickly and as easily as it probably can. So you need to make sure that you're creating your site, or your site is created in a way that Google can see it. There's a few things that happen for that. Things like your webigation. Good grief. Welcome to, I'm going to trademark that word. You can't use that. That's mine, webigation. Website navigation. So thinking about, just like I said, Google can't see images, they can't hear audio right now. So making sure that your text and your layout of your site is easily read by Google. Your URL structure, so that's the www.a1media.com.au. I hope that's the right address. You should check them out. Tim's amazing. Or whatever website it is that you're trying to get. Excuse me, now I'm choking on my own words. No, seriously, Tim is amazing. I wasn't choking on that fact. So think about your URL structure and try and keep those words short. It helps Google to see and recognize. So if we're talking about Tracy Sheen, the digital guide, www.tracysheen.com.au/about makes it nice and easy for Google to go, that's the about page. We're good, and it can move on. Page speed, it's looking for things like how quickly does your site take to load. Now, if you have a lot of images, like if you're a photographer, this can be a killer, man. So make sure when you load your site up, or when you go to www.tracysheen.com.au, and I know this because I had to fix it because it was a pain in the absolute, anyway. When you load it, you want to make sure that you're going 1, 2, good, I'm on the site. If it's anything longer than 5 seconds, we're gone. Our attention is really, really short now, and so is Google's. They will mark you down considerably if your site is not loading in under 5 seconds. So think about that. Have a look at your images. Have they been optimized? Are they, small enough for web? Have a look for dead links and broken links. Now I'm going to let you in a little secret. I want you to write this down. You got a pen? Okay, good. Uber suggests, UberSuggest, Uber suggests. It's a site that was created by a guy called Neil Patel, who is an American digital marketer, really, really well known globally, has created some great stuff. Check him out, he's worth having a look at. But Uber Suggest is a website where you can pop your website in and it will go through and give you a bit of a really quick SEO audit of any broken links you've got on your website, if your load speed is too slow, stuff that you can go and change. And one of the big things that Google dislikes are broken links. Have you ever been to a site where you've typed in an address and you get a 404 error, or you get a, oh, sorry, we're not here? Google hates that stuff. So you want to be going through your site and making sure that you have none of that. You just clear it out, get rid of it, fix the link, do whatever you need to do. The other one Google dislikes is duplicate content. Now, if you've created a blog or an article and then you've gone ahead and just copied and pasted that stuff and chucked it on your Google My Business profile, Google don't like it. Just don't do it. Stop it. Stop it. Go and rewrite that blog for your Google My Business site, or go and rewrite that blog for your social media or for your LinkedIn profile. Do not use duplicate content, okay? There's some really quick things that you can do, and remember it was Uber Suggest. I'm looking at you, Mary. Uber Suggest. Got it? Okay, good. So check that site out, put your domain in, and it will give you a rundown of all the things that we've just kind of gone through there that you can fix yourself really nice and quickly. That is some of the technical setup stuff that's going to immediately give you a nice kick along on your SEO. Now, if you've watched the Google Analytics one that we did, probably in your space continuum, I don't know, maybe it was an hour or so ago that you went and watched it, or it's 2 hours in your future, you'll understand what I mean by that a little more, because they all, as I said, kind of connect in together. All right, so you've had a look at the technical setup, you've kind of got your head around, I've got some broken links I've got to fix, I've got some image sizes I need to fix. Awesome, you can go and do that. That's all going to help with your SEO, and it's all going to start to give you a nice kick along. The second thing you need to think about is your content. So from an SEO viewpoint, your content is what gives you visibility, okay? If you don't have regular blogs, regular articles going on your website, Google thinks that your site's been abandoned. It's like the Old West with the tumbleweeds kind of going through in the background. Even you can go out my way, out the Darling Downs right now. There's tumbleweeds going across the road out there because it's windy, and I'm off track again, but that's beside the point. So when it comes to content, that's what creates your visibility. So I know what you're thinking. I get it all the time. Oh my God, I hate writing blogs. Sorry, get over it. Google love them. Google love fresh content. How often should you be putting it out? Look, it depends on your business. I would say at least monthly, put something fresh on your site. If you can put it out more frequently to that and you can stick to it, do it. But here's the thing, if you're going to go, I'm going to write a blog every week, it's going to be fantastic, and you do it for 4 weeks, and then you go on holidays and you don't do it for 2, and then you come back and you write for 3 weeks, and then you don't do it for a month, and then no, does you no favors. So start once a month, fantastic, but keep that momentum up. Google love fresh content. Now, the other thing you need to know is Google like long content. Now, you need to kind of temper this with your audience. So depending on who it is you're working with, your guys might actually prefer a really short read. They might like something that's 300-400 words, that's, straight to the point, it's punchy, it's not making them read War and Peace. So you've got to kind of walk that fine line between, you should always write for your people first. Always write for your clients first. It's got to be about your people. If you help your clients, it will help your business. So always write for your people first. But keep in mind, Google love long form content. Google love things around 2,000 words because it builds your authority and it builds your credibility with Google. So if you don't want to do it, Fat Joe is your go-to site. Fat Joe with a F, not a PH, John, I'm looking at you, fatjoe.com. They create content. They've got a bunch of journos that write for them, that write in UK English, so we don't even need to get, American spell check and all that kind of stuff. They'll create the content for you, and you just put in, how long you want the article to be, how many articles you want, all that kind of stuff. It's really quite good, and it's really, really handy if you don't want to create your own longer form content. The only thing you need to remember if you want to do short form stuff, here's an SEO tip. It needs to have a minimum of 300 words for Google to be able to read it. Anything less than 300 words and Google just it's not there. It's not there. So often I see this with contact us pages where people struggle because they just want to go, hey, contact us at blah, and then I'll get an error in their SEO reporting or in their Google Analytics to say this page couldn't be read. That's because it doesn't have 300 words on that. So just keep that in mind when you are thinking about creating content. Now, Google will use your content to help figure out your authority and your credibility in that space. So the more content, and this is where it comes in really handy for you to get into a regular little vibe of creating fresh content. Now, if you like doing video or if you like doing audio as an example, awesome. You do you, fantastic. Just get a transcription. Whack the transcription on the site. Google will read the transcription. You got the video, happy days. You've got the audio, happy days, whatever. You got the transcription, makes Google happy. And let's be honest, it also helps out if you've got any members of the deaf community and things like that. It speaks to a more diverse clientele. All right, so some other keyword or content considerations. Do some keyword research. Now again, I keep coming back to keyword because that's what search engine optimization is all about. It's going to optimize to a keyword, to a key phrase, to a topic. So if you're unsure of what people are looking for in your industry, all right, get the pen and paper out again. I'm going to okay, you got it? Answerthepublic.com. It is a fantastic little site where you can just type in, for example, digital marketing, and the site goes and trawls Google today and then gives you a bunch of questions that people are asking around Australia about digital marketing. So that'll start to give you some really good ideas of what topics, what keywords, etc. that people are looking for. If you run Google Chrome as your internet browser, you can also download an extension called Keyword Surfer or Keywords Anywhere. Yes, Keyword Surfer or Keywords Anywhere. So just to repeat those, Keyword Surfer, Keywords Anywhere, they're extensions that you can run on Google Chrome. And the neat thing that happens anytime you type in a question into Google Chrome, on the little right-hand side of your box, it will give you other examples of things that are ranking in that industry or in that topic. So if you're stuck, if you're like, I have no idea what people are looking for, or I have no idea what my keywords or what my topics would be, Keyword Surfer, Keywords Anywhere, Answer the Public, you're welcome. They're all free downloads. Go do it because you need to know this stuff if you want to improve your SEO. Keyword optimization. All right, this one is a bit of a, we're going down a bit of a rabbit hole here now, so hang in there with me because it's worth it. And this will give you a real bump along with your content and help your organic SEO, which is what we're all about, right? So, okay, I've created a blog. Fantastic, yay you. Don't run away yet, don't drop the mic. You've got a lot of work to do. So the first thing you need to do is think about your title, like what is my blog title, and put a keyword in there. Okay, so again, if we're talking digital marketing and I've created a blog about what is digital marketing, guess what a good title for that blog might be? What is digital marketing? It's got the keyword right there in the title. does what it says on the box. That's a big tick for Google when it comes to looking immediately. Someone jumps online, what is digital marketing? I've written a blog, what is digital marketing? Google goes, hey, happy days. The next thing you want to do is when you create that URL, if you can, now this might not be something you can do, this might be a web thing, but have a look to include a keyword. So for example, in your services, when people go to the services, perhaps in one of the drop downs you might have as your URL, digital marketing services. So see, I'm trying to get that keyword, that phrase back in there again. Have a look at your H1 tag. Now, getting a little technical, hang in there. If you go to the back end, excuse me, that was a bit rude, wasn't it? All right, so H1 tag. If you go into the back end of your website, now I don't care whether it's Wix, whether it's WordPress, whether it's Squarespace, whatever you're using, you need to get a little bit familiar with the back end of your stuff. You need to know, the magic behind Oz, what's going on behind the curtain. One of the things you need to look at is your H1 tag. That's your header. So what format is your H1 tag? And you need to make sure that you do have a header in there, because again, Google's looking for what is digital marketing. Here's a blog, what is digital marketing? And the blog name is a header 1 tag, boom, happy days. Next one, meta title and your meta description. Now meta description, the easiest way to think about that, when you Google a website, and it comes up with that couple of lines of whatever it is about the business underneath it. So if I look for A1 Media, it might have A1 Media as the most awesome media production house in the Southern Hemisphere. It was created by, and then it's got ... That means because Tim has not gone to the trouble of creating metadata or a meta description. You've got about 120 characters. You get to play with that. So with your blog, think about what's that 2 lines that if someone's Googled what is digital marketing, all right, it's come up with the header, what is digital marketing, boom, but now I want that person to read that first 2 lines of my blog, or that first 2 lines to think about, yeah, this is something I want to read. So what can you put in there that is A, going to entice a client to click on that link and read it, but also for Google to go, oh yeah, this is really relevant to what the client has asked or what this person has put into the search query. The next one is your image titles, and people miss this one all the time, and this is huge. When you load images to your website, you have the opportunity to give your image a name. Really, 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 I'm not on a loop, I'm just emphasizing how important this is. Really important that you label your photos, particularly if you're working within a really confined geographical area. So think about Thai restaurant or any kind of restaurant or cafe where really traditionally you're kind of pulling from a small geographical range that you're trying to pull those clients into. So if I load up a photo of an awesome, you know what, I've gone completely blank of a crying tiger, there we go. And I just put up crying tiger, I'm missing out on a huge opportunity here. I could go crying tiger, Red Cliff, crying tiger Thai cafe. You know what, I can label it as the dish, which is a keyword. I can give it the suburb, which also then helps Google that when I'm searching best Thai restaurant Moreton Bay, it's going to link, oh, yep, this is in the Moreton Bay region and it's got Thai dish, perfect, happy days. It starts to serve that up. Now, the other place, just as an aside, bonus content, bonus content. If you are working with a local industry, and you have your Google My Business account set up, and if you don't, around about 40% of your SEO is based on your Google My Business, so get on it. Anyway, when you load a photo up to GMB, tag it as well. So again, crying tiger, Red Cliff cafe, whatever it is, that is going to start to really give you a big local SEO ping and give you really good bang for buck. The last one that you need to consider is semantic keywords. Semantic keywords are just things that could be, sounds like. So think about another way that people might search for Thai restaurant Redcliffe. Is it Thai cafe? Is it Malaysian? Is it, I know that's, you know, separate companies, separate countries, probably companies as well, but separate countries, I completely understand that. But what else could your clients potentially search for when they're searching for your business that you can weave into the content? Because Google like those semantic keywords, those semantic phrases. What that does for Google is show the additional credibility and authority in your content when they're trying to match your answer with a search query. So think about how can you build in semantic or words, phrases that sound like similar to, you know, sounds like that helps with the search content. All right, so some other non-key related but fit into the content side of SEO to think about and to look at when you're wanting to manage your own SEO from scratch. External links. So when you're writing an article or when you're putting together a blog for your website, or even you're writing the content for your regular site, think about whose site can you link to that will add credibility to your website. So for example, if I'm writing an article for Smallville, which is a small business publication, I can link to some research that I've done from The Age, for example. So The Age has really good credibility in that kind of news space. Depends on what side of the political fence I understand that, but just play along with me for a second. So The Age has good kind of authority in the Google space that if I link to that for an article for Smallville, I'm getting a double whammy. So you want to think about where you can back up some research that you've done. So, you know, 78.5% of stats are made up on the spot, and then you would link to the article that you read that in. So you've got an external link. So again, Google, when they're trawling through and their little bot's going through and reading it, they can go, oh yeah, it's got some good external links, they're going to some good places, yep, happy days. External links. You also want to think about internal links. So what other blogs, what other content have you created that you can link? So if I talk about the example around, you know, what is digital marketing that I've written a blog on, I might get to like the second paragraph and say, you know, I've previously written an article on how digital marketing will impact your SEO, and then I could hyperlink. That is just, hyperlink is just, you know, click here and it takes you to there. I can hyperlink back to that previous article or that video or that audio that I have created. So what that's doing is enticing the clients to spend longer on my site because they're reading that article, then they're going off to that article, then they're watching that video, etc. Google has this magic number, it's called 3 minutes, and it's called dwell time. If you can get people to hang out on your site for 3 minutes because they've read that article and then they've bounced over here and watched that video, and then they've gone over here and downloaded that template or done whatever they want to do, again, that helps with your SEO. And, you know, quick plug, back to the Google Analytics, go and watch that one, how it all starts to link in and feeds off each other. So think about, you know, what other article have I written? What other video have I produced? Can I link that at the end of my thing? You know, if you'd like to know more information about how I can assist with digital marketing strategy, click here, and then maybe it goes off to your services page that talks about digital marketing strategy. Do you get what I mean? So at all, you need to be thinking about who can I link out to, what else can I link into in terms of my website that will help with the strategy. All right, content length. So we talked about, Google typically like longer content. The best ranking home pages on websites now have over 1,800 words. 1,800 words. So you want to break that up with a few images, maybe some video, an infographic, you know, whatever. But think about how can you create longer form content. Not everywhere, not all the time. I get it. Your audience may not like long form content. Google does. Walk the tightrope. Maybe 1 month it's a 500-word article because you know your folks like that with an infographic at the bottom. The next month it's 2,000 or 2,500 because Google likes that. So, and then just see, you know, what is getting you the best traction. And we talked about dwell time. So using things like videos, infographics, audio, things like that, that all builds up your dwell time, or how long people are dwelling, hanging around on your site, which will be reflected in your Google Analytics, but helps with your search engine because it builds your credibility, it builds your authority in the eyes of Google. All right, so we've done the technical stuff. And you're still with me, so well done you. We've done the content, so now we're going to talk about the third thing that will impact your SEO, and that's links. So you need to focus on good quality link building. So remember in the content we talked about, you know, potentially linking out to an external site like The Age. Don't just randomly link out to The Age, you know, please use one that's relevant for your industry. And internal linking as well. So you want to be thinking about good quality links. So think about sites that you would consider an authority. So for example, if I'm talking about the digital marketing space, I recommended Ubersuggest to you. Neil Patel is kind of like a bit of a guru in the digital marketing space in the US. So if I wrote an article and said you might want to go and check out Ubersuggest, that site has really good authority on Google. So it's going to give me a nice little bump along because I'm giving credible links to Google to follow to see that I'm writing relevant content similar to, but not the same as, what Neil Patel is producing. So sites that carry authority with Google, LinkedIn, you know, things like that, will carry a higher weighting when it comes to your link value. The relevance of the topic will carry authority. So some things I've seen done, crazy things, and I know you guys would never do this, so I can talk about this without it going any further. I've seen people create articles where, let's say they're a digital marketing agency, and then they've just randomly linked to an article about fishing because that fishing site got amazing traffic. Like, you know, it doesn't take much to kind of go, well, where's the, I don't see any connection there. If you can't see a connection there, guess what? Google can't see a connection there. If Google can't see a connection there, they're going to go, you're just doing this because those guys get good hits. We're going to penalise you for that because that's a no-no. So just use relevant links, please. And like I said, I know you guys wouldn't do anything like that. It's always Margaret from HR that tries to do. That's a running gag, by the way. It means you've got to watch the other ones. So links from trustworthy sites, as I said, they carry the higher rating. So think about who are the stalwarts in your industry, in your community that you can use. If you're an accountant, can you link to Xero? Can you link to MyOb? Can you link to Reckon or QuickBooks, whoever they are this week? Who can you use within your industry that you know has authority and credibility, that kind of by association you get that nice little, you know, that nice little rub, that nice little nod. So when it comes to link building, I'm pretty confident that you've received those emails like I do every single day of the week. Dear Mr. Sir, I am a SEO agency and I've just done your website and I can see that you're only getting 18% and I give good link ratings and we get you page 1 and, you know, whatever it is. We've all got them, right? Please don't fall for those emails. Just don't. Stop it. Don't even think about it. Junk them straight away. It's not worth it. But when you are thinking about building a link strategy or you are thinking about working with an SEO business to improve your overall rankings, there are some link strategies that you need to consider. So we talked about linking out to sites with authority, like Xero, like MyOb, that kind of thing that's relevant to your industry. You need to think about, how do you build your organic links? So how can you be working with other companies that have your clients, that work with the same clients as you before or after you, that aren't in competition with you? So if I'm in digital marketing, an accountant is a good referral source for me because they're working with business owners that need marketing, right? So I could chat to my accountant and say, you know, hey, I've just written this awesome article. I think it's really relevant to your people. Would you mind putting a link to it? Or, you know, so that's an organic link. It's also an outreach strategy where I can be thinking about who has my clients, my ideal clients, before or after me that aren't in competition with me. So if we're thinking about digital marketing agency, accountants, business coaches, solicitors, people like that are all working, we're all working with the same people, but we don't cross over. Like, you don't want financial advice from me, trust me, it's not going to end well. And I'll give you legal advice, but that's probably not going to end well either. But we all work with the same people, so there's no crossover. So I can easily create content for those guys, and vice versa. That means I'm getting fresh stuff on my website, they're getting fresh stuff on their website. We're linking back to each other, so we're giving each other this nice little organic boost through an outreach campaign. The other one is guest blogging. So you could think about, you know, media these days is no longer what I would call traditional. You know, if we think about the old days of, you know, if you want to get known, you would go to radio or TV. A lot of it now is done virally, right? It happens through podcasts, it happens through word of mouth, through social, etc. So who has your people, your community that you want to get in front of that you could potentially guest post for? Is there an online magazine? Is there an online website that has a community of your people that you could potentially post something for? So again, if you're an accountant, perhaps you go to Xero and have a look. They often have guest posts. Could you write something that would be relevant for your community that you could post on their site? So think about how you could build your links through outreach and guest blogging and things like that. So ultimately, here's what I want you to know. Marketing is a numbers game, right? You need to know your data. I've talked about it in Google Analytics. They cross over, they really do. I know I'm kind of rubbing that one in, but there's a lot of stuff that I talk about here that we talk about in Google Analytics, and a lot of stuff in Google Analytics that we're covering here as well. You need to understand what your numbers are telling you. And if you don't have access to your numbers, your business is dead in the water. Like, I really hate to say that, but these days it really, really is. Do not be throwing money at Google ads or Facebook ads or anything like that if you don't know who your client is, what their problem is, how you can solve it for them, and what types of content they want. You need to know those things now in order to be able to grow and leverage your business. So measuring your SEO just basically means that you need to understand the traffic and the engagement that is coming through. So you're going to measure things like your organic traffic growth, right? Now, all of this, as I said, we cover in Google Analytics. So go and watch that one and you'll see what I mean about where you're going to get that data. But you need to be monitoring what's going on so you know, all right, if I write a blog that's 500 words, I'm picking up an extra 5% to my website. But if I write a blog that's 2,000 words, I'm getting an extra 20% to my website. You know, until you actually know your numbers, you don't know what's going to work. So you need to really get comfortable with understanding where you can get that data from, and understanding, you know, for your SEO, what are your keywords, what are your topics, you know, and then you need to get comfortable with your Google Analytics stats. How long are people spending on your website? How long are, you know, what are your best pages for you? What's your link growth like? You know, you need to be using that Uber Suggest page kind of probably every 3 months, just to be running it through and to make sure that none of those links are broken. So if you're doing a lot of external links, you need to make sure that they're not breaking, that those sites are still active, that they're still refreshing the content. And if you have a lot of old blogs on your website, and by old I mean, you know, last year, we really are in fast content, fast fashion, fast everything, aren't we? So if you've written content that from 2019, the easiest place to start is to go back and refresh that blog. So if you had the top 5 things you need to know about holidaying in Moreton Bay, you could go back and change that to the five top tips we have for traveling in Moreton Bay in 2020 and update some of the content, and then that's going to give you an automatic kick with your SEO because it's relevant to right now. So Google will look for fresh content, remember? So if that's 12 months ago, that's, you know, clueless to Google. They can't even see that. It's like, bye Felicia. They're not even going to know what's going on with that. So keep your content fresh. Anything more than kind of 12 months, go back and refresh it. Give it a 2020 overhaul. You know, I usually post about, you know, my 5 favorite business podcasts each year. So I'll always make sure that I'll go in and discuss about what's going on with that. All right, my challenge for you is this. Really, right now, what I want you to do is get comfortable with your keywords. Know what they are. Just get really, really familiar with what people are searching for to find you and start to think about how you can weave that in. Start to do some research on SEO. Just begin to understand it, because if you can do that, you'll see an automatic flow on throughout your content, the number of visitors to your website, the engagement levels that you're getting because you're starting to produce stuff that people are looking for. That's it. I told you to be fun, right? Google Analytics. SEO, wrong one. SEO, it's fine. It's fine. SEO. So that's it. I've been Tracy Sheen, the Digital Guide. You've been you. Thank you so much for watching. Go and check out that Google Analytics one because seriously, they just crossover. It's all about crossover. Have a great afternoon.